Approximately 1 year after Surrounded by Idiots was published, I had a strange encounter. A young man came up to me after a lecture I'd given at a university. He stood right in front of me, face to face, more or less pushing aside others who also wanted to ask questions. With an intense gaze, he said that he didn't recognize himself in any of the colours. I asked him what he meant by that, and he said that none of the behaviours I had described fitted him. He thought he was a fifth colour. He also wanted to know more about how to best interact with the other colours, but his choice of words was interesting. He told me he wanted to know how to take advantage of this knowledge. Okay. I gave him a standard answer, since I didn't have time to start analysing him then and there. And when he realised that he wasn't going to get anywhere with his questions, he stepped aside. But he didn't leave. Instead, he remained standing a few yards away, observing me the whole time until I packed up all my things. Observed is not quite the right word. In fact, he stared at me in an almost embarrassing way for perhaps 10 minutes. I saw people come up to him, say hello and smile, and every time he smiled back. But he wasn't really smiling at all. He pretended to smile. His face was distorted into a weird, strange grimace, a sort of imitation of a smile. Some of the people he smiled at noticed and reacted with a questioning look, while others didn't seem to think there was anything out of the ordinary. And after every smile, he went back to his serious, concentrated staring. At me. It was decidedly uncomfortable. And what did he mean by take advantage of the disc system? It struck me that the young man was right about one thing. The disc language doesn't apply to everybody. A part of the population can't be categorized. We should be very careful of such unpleasant, maybe even dangerous types of people. We've all heard the stories of the master manipulators, the con men, the imposters. How could he trick me so totally? Their victims wonder. Why didn't I see that he was a con man? The reason? Because these individuals know how they can use your own behaviour against you. They have an instinctive understanding of how to manipulate a person to do virtually anything. And they can con virtually anybody using what they learn about them. Their purpose is always the same: to get what they want. They leave behind a trail of chaos and disorder. The question is this: if a person doesn't have a personality of their own, but simply mirrors whomever is in front of them, who is that person? They're not red or yellow, and definitely not green or blue. Are they all the colours? A fifth colour? The answer is none of these. They are something much worse. Something that cannot be categorised in the way we categorise normal people. They are people who don't have a personality of their own. Instead, they mimic whatever they see for their own gain. They are a type of chameleon with a hidden agenda that only they know of. And we can be certain that this agenda only ever benefits them. Instead of identifying these people as a fifth colour, or a combination of all the colours, I define them as having no colour at all. Because a person who doesn't really have a genuine personality, who is always at least partially acting, is not a real person. They are more a shadow, a reflection of reality, but not properly real. They're a sort of walking fraud on two legs. If you have met this type of individual, you'll know what I'm talking about. But who are they, these people? What sort of people try to mimic what other people do? And what can their goal be? Pretending to be like everybody else. To put it plainly, they are predators in human form. Does that sound dramatic? The reason for that is very simple. It is dramatic. These individuals end up harming most people they come into contact with, and often the victims don't even know who's responsible for the disarray. That, dear listener, is what psychopaths do. Luckily, they're all locked up in jail, right? Psychopaths are living in society just like the rest of us. They infiltrate companies and organisations where they get comparatively little work done, and only in exceptional cases do they make any positive contributions. They rarely offer to get the bill of the restaurant. And they never have any money when household expenses have to be paid. They are often unfaithful, manipulative, and duplicitous. They are notorious liars. Most of them lie when there isn't even any reason to do so. They can fool anyone into believing them, and they turn everything you say against you. But they're often extremely popular. A lot of people like them, place them on a pedestal, and even respect them. How is this possible, you might well ask yourself? Good question. How could we like a person who is so duplicitous? Not me, you're thinking to yourself. I would hate them from the very start. Exactly. If you knew their real self, you would hate them. But you wouldn't know, because they wouldn't allow it to show. With a bit of luck, you might eventually discover it. In the best case, you'd realise who they were before things are desperate, when you've lost your job and you're cut off from all the people you once called your friends. But hang on a moment, you might be thinking. Psychopaths are serial murderers and violent criminals. Most of these maniacs are obviously in prison. If only that was the case. It is true that a lot of them are behind bars since they've not been able to control their impulses. They are violent and sometimes crazy, to put it plainly. When they see something they want, they simply take it, often with violence, which quickly gives them away. But the majority of all psychopaths are not behind bars. The more intelligent psychopaths, and those who don't commit serious violent crimes, are walking around among us just like everybody else. They are people who will stop at nothing to get what they want. And you have certainly come across some of them. But are we really surrounded by them? The title, Surrounded by Psychopaths, was chosen with care, since there are far more psychopaths than I think most people are aware of. I want to show you how to recognise a master manipulator and to protect yourself